Hey everyone, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we're going to be discussing Urshifu in the SSOU metagame. We're going to be discussing what sets it might use, what the checks and counters to it are directly, as well as some defensive cores that might be able to handle it, as well as some partners for it to be used offensively and defensively on the teams that you might find Urshifu. And finally, I'm going to give you guys my final verdict on if Urshifu is ban-worthy or not in the metagame right now and why. So first off, of course, we're going to be discussing how to use Urshifu, what sets it frequents, and why those sets may or may not be effective in the current metagame. So let's dig into that right now. As you see, the first set and what might be the best application of Urshifu overall is the Choice Bander with Wicked Blow, being very spammable. You want it to be as strong as possible and as is, letting it 2-kill with things like Toxic Specs really dent a ton of common physical checks, Nothing really wants to be eating a Wicked Blow, even if they're resistant, besides maybe a Buzzwole or a bulky Mandibuzz. And even those Pokemon, while Buzzwole is a hard counter, Mandibuzz definitely has to watch out for close combat. You can just go down the list, and the point is that nothing really is safe here. Close combat complements it really well, hitting dark types that are able to resist Wicked Blow, as well as devastating steel types with a one shot most of the time. Things like Heatran, Ferrothorn, Extra really don't stand a chance against it. Poison Jab is the primary complementary coverage, hitting things like Primarina. Tapu Fini is a bit more important. I don't know why I said Primarina first. Also, Tapu Koko. Clefable is a huge one, of course, and the list goes down and on and on. And U-Turn is there to generate momentum. You can definitely use Sucker Punch over U-Turn if you want to, get a surprise, a revenge kill on something like Spectre or Chip Tornadus T, etc. So yeah, that's completely fair as well. Adamant Nature is also very viable on this set. However, Jolly is preferred on the Choice Bander, if only because that speed tier is pretty congested and you likely aren't running Sucker Punch, and locking into Sucker Punch is also pretty sketchy because if they catch on, then you kind of give them free turns, and that's definitely something that you got to be careful of. So moreover, as a byproduct of that, Jolly U-Turn has become the most common Choice Band set, especially on more offensive teams. So as an extension of that, Jolly lets you outrun things like Landorus T, Tapu Lele. There's a lot of other Pokemon in the speed tier as well. You go down the list of X-Drill, you're going to outrun every X-Drill outside of Sand. I mean, you could probably find a couple other things. You want me to go down the speed list really quickly. To Imagine. It's also, trying to think here. I slipped my mind for some reason. Yeah, here we go. We're going through all the tiers. Yeah, Lando T is a big one. Moltres is huge because people are running faster Moltres lately. Zapdos, most Zapdos you're outrunning as well. Again, Drill, all the Rotom forms. Nidoking's a huge one. Yup. Any Tapu Fini. Como, although that's taking a big dip in usage. Yeah, you go down the list. A couple other things as well. Maybe some more fringe options, but still. Blaziken, Mamoswine, for example. Yeah. So the point is that you're outrunning a lot of things with Jolly in the tier right now. The big one, of course, being Lando T, as it's pretty damn common. But also, if you outrun a Moltres or a Zapdos or an X-Drill that otherwise wouldn't outrun, that's a pretty big deal in my opinion. Although Zapdos on occasion can run max speed and outrun you, but you've really been seeing that less and less as it's been running to run more bulk. So, yeah. Anyway, on top of that, there's also going to be a Life Orb all-out attacking set. Sorry if my my audio just got glitched for a second. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, there's also a Life Orb all-out attacking set, and some people, especially on the council, have been saying this might be their favorite set, and I happen to agree. I like this set the most. I think it pairs super well with other fighting types, previously Pheromosa, now things like Hawlucha, even Blaziken on hyper-offensive teams. Not being able to be locked into a move means that, let's say you Wicked Blow and you encounter a Mandibuzz on turn 1, all of a sudden, that Mandibuzz still has to watch out for close combat. Or let's say you click Poison Jab predicting Clefable, but they go to, they go to the Steel type, thinking, okay, I could live one Wicked Blow, and on top of that, I'm not going to die to Poison Jab like Clefable might get to a Kyogre, and I need my Clefable to be intact to check it later in the game, or to check the Hawlucha in the back. All of a sudden, you could just attack them again in the next turn. You get the turn right, and not being locked into a move, yes, it does come at a 10% cost each turn, but you're still getting the same 2 kills for the most part, same one-shots for the most part, and on top of that, being able to, switch moves, even if it means, I go close combat turn 1, and they go Clefable, it only does 31%, and then Poison Jab doesn't kill it, and it kills me, all of a sudden that Clefable is at 10-15%, and then Hawlucha, or Garchomp, or whatever it might be, Latios, might sweep afterwards, Dragapult. It might sweep afterwards, and sometimes that's all hyper-offensive teams need. They just need one wall cleared out so that the secondary sweeper, the true win condition that benefits from the breaker, can sweep. And Urshifu is one of the best Pokemon at really doing this job and clearing things out. In addition, with Sucker Punch, it could function as a revenge code to things like Spectre, which is cool. I want to note, though, that A lot of people are saying Urshifu is the best Spectre check in the metagame, or one of the better Spectre checks in the metagame, and that is so far from the truth. In fact, Urshifu hardly even beats Spectre. It beats it 1v1, sure, but that's really all I can say. It switches in on a Shadow Ball, and it's taking 40% to a kill if it's Specs. If it switches in on Wisp, then all of a sudden Urshifu is crippled. It can barely even one-shot Spectre, and if it subs a couple times, Sucker Punch mind games, it becomes a huge problem. Non-Sucker Punch Urshifu also can just lose to it on the switch in, so there's that too. But yeah, Choice Band Urshifu doesn't check Spectre, period. Life Orb Sucker Punch 1 should be able to be a one-time check, but that's really all it is. Spectre is coming in more than one time. So people saying that Urshifu being banned means Spectre is going to get even better and better and better, I think that's really short-sighted of them. I think that if Spectre is a problem, it already is one, and it might get a little bit more problematic, but I think that means that we should just suspect it next if that is the case. Again, that's a huge if, by the way. That's more for a future video, but what I'm saying is that if you're relying solely on Urshifu for Spectre, then your building and your preparation might be the problem itself, because Urshifu doesn't really beat Spectre as is. You gotta make of Urshifu what it is. It's more of an offensive Pokemon than a defensive check to things, even if it's a Dark type. Not all Dark types check all Ghost types. That's just not how it is. Pokemon is not that linear of a game. So, yeah. Anyway, some other sets. Bulk Up is still a viable variant of Urshifu. I think it's gotten a lot worse though. We see things like Tapu Fini being used more and more, even Tapu Koko, and they aren't going to be dying to, Wicked Blow or Close Combat. Into Sucker Punch in Coco's case, or 2 Wicked Blows Close Combat, even at +1 for Fini's case, so that's rough. And then Buzzwole stonewalls this, and you can't even break through Clefable, so you're kind of losing out on a lot of coverage. It works on specific teams, though, I will say that much. Scarf Urshifu has been validated a bit more by metagame trend. This also does a bit better against Spectre, but also on top of that, it's able to get surprise revenge kills on things like Weaken Tornadus T, Dragapult, and beyond all of that, it pairs super nicely with future sets. It still packs a punch and is able to threaten with that, so it can work on the right team. Beyond that, there's also Metronome variants, and there's Black Glasses variants. I don't view them as particularly good, but they definitely are viable in the right team. If you want to lure a specific Pokemon or two for a specific other offensive Pokemon on your team, they could definitely work on your team synergistically, but I don't believe these are the steps that necessarily breaks it. Some other people have been really high in the Metronome variant as a lure. Wicked Blow, potentially bluffing being Scarf, now that's been more common, or just bluffing being Black Glasses, and then, going from there. With the Adamant Nature, you could pull it off, and then get a surprise Poison Jab on a Clefable, maybe it doesn't heal up, or maybe it doesn't go Moonblast, maybe it goes Rocks, and then it's into a kill range. There's definitely some cool things that you can kind of manipulate the opponent into doing and getting enough damage off with this set to do. It's just, it doesn't really strike me as the most scary and consistent set of the bunch. Again, very viable, but I don't know if this necessarily is what would push it over the edge in my opinion. So yeah, the main sets are the Choice Band and Life Orb sets in my opinion. Scarf being good, but Scarf not being really what breaks it in my eyes. Anyway, so you see Urshifu as Single Strike, that is, one of the most scary and perhaps dominant Pokemon in the metagame, and you're like, damn, Finch, what's gonna check this absolute beast? 130 base special attack, always critting that Wicked Blow, Close Combat Mash, and Pokemon in the metagame. What's gonna check it? Well, there are some checks and counters, but they're few and far in between, and that's something that's important, because if a Pokemon only has a small handful of checks and counters, then you either have to use one of those checks and counters, one of those forms of counterplay, or you might be shit out of luck. Especially if you're not using a team full of Pokemon that are faster than it, and seeing how fast Urshifu is, that's kind of hard to deal with, in my opinion. So, moreover, as an extension of that, if you will, it definitely is something that limits team building a ton. And that's been kind of a buzzword in Suspects this generation. I think that's something that new players need to figure out. If you're forced to use one of a specific pool of Pokemon to keep something in check, even if that Pokemon is super good, like let's say Clefable, or maybe it's a number of Pokemon, but they're all fringe, like for example Buzzwole and Weezing, odds are that's something that you need to discuss more. Is it fair that team building is limited to using just one of these small pool of Pokemon, or should we be looking for more? Does that make it problematic or not? And I think we really need to do kind of a deep dive into that, because I feel as if that's been something that we've been kind of ignoring more and more and more. Anyway, moreover, there are checks and counters to it. I'll be the first to admit that. However, those checks and counters are, besides Clefable, things that you don't really see a ton. I mean, Buzzwole is really the only one of them that's clung on to OU via usage, and that's largely because of past metagame states kind of lingering, especially with Pheromosa being gone. Now, there's even less reason to use Buzzwole. So yeah, Let's go through the list. So Clefable is obviously the big one, and I feel like team building for the last couple of months has been constrained to, oh my god, I have to use Clefable because of Urshifu. And truth be told, you also have to use Clefable for a couple of other things. Status absorption for one, having a dragon immunity is a big one, being able to set up rocks or have a come on win condition or teleport out wishes. There are a lot of things that Clefable can and will fulfill for your team, but I feel like these roles can at least be accomplished by other Pokemon, specifically other fairy types, and these roles haven't really been able to be explored as much because Urshifu's been limiting teams to Clefable, as Clefable, has the bulk and the convenience factor combined, and it makes team building very practical. But personally, I'd love a world with much less Clefable in it, so Urshifu kind of enables that, if you will. Of course, Buzzwole is like the only true hard counter to it, as Clefable is subject to getting 2-KO'd by, say, a Poison Jab, or even potentially a Choice Banded Wicked Blow the first time, and then Poison Jab after and be able to kill it outright if it's a Life Orb variant. So there are things you got to be scared of, is the point. But as an extension of that, I also believe that Clefable functions more as a good check, whereas Buzzwole functions as almost a universal counter, unless you're facing one of those weird itemless acrobatic sets, which, by the way, they really, really shouldn't exist. I just want to make that as clear as possible. Although, to be completely honest, I do feel like that set has some meme value, but I wouldn't use it in a serious capacity. So yeah, Buzzwole, it's able to eat Wicked Blow, able to eat close combat. It's really good defensively, if you will, against it. And it also has some other defensive value. For instance, it's able to check things like, say, non-Fire Blast Garchomp, although a lot of them are running Fire Blast now, or Swords Dance Landorus T. It's able to check Excadrill and Kartana, and even potentially Melmetal. There is definitely a significant amount of reasons to use Buzzwole in the metagame. It's just that, unfortunately, due to Buzzwole's passivity, it's not able to break things like Toxapex, it's not able to break things like Slowbro, Moltres, Zapdos, etc. Rillaboom you can check, but Rillaboom partnered with the Clefable, all of a sudden, every time you just invite in Clefable, and Clefable gets a proc, gets off a knockoff, gets off a wish, whatever it might be, and suddenly Buzzwole becomes a net negative Pokemon just by keeping things in check. And therefore, Buzzwole really is only being consistently used on more passive teams, or people are using it on offensive teams but noticing that they're falling a step behind. And that brings me to another thing. If we're banning Urshifu from the metagame, that might be removing an offensive Pokemon from the metagame that can threaten bulky teams. But in a sense, it's making it much worse for bulky teams, because bulky teams already are prepared. They're running Clefable on every team. They're running Buzzwole a ton. However, these teams can fit these Pokemon like Clefable and Buzzwole much easier because they feel dedicated roles checking things. Balanced teams and bulky offensive teams, they can't fit Buzzwole as well in the metagame. And as an extension of that, that means that all of a sudden they're either forced to run suboptimal structures that otherwise, wouldn't be good if Urshifu wasn't in the tier, or they're just outright weak to Urshifu. So Urshifu being removed from the tier, while we do lose an offensive Pokemon, actually benefits balance and bulky offense far more than it benefits a archetype like Stall, in my opinion. And I think this is it's not even really an opinion, it's a fact. I mean, Buzzwole is seen strictly on these type of teams, and when it's seen on these other teams like bulky offense and balance, it's just automatically kind of clunky unless you try and reinvent Buzzwole, use more offensive or quirky Buzzwole. And yeah, I think that could actually be a cool metagame adaptation. We've seen a couple people doing, but it hasn't caught on enough to where all of a sudden this is enough to keep Urshifu in the tier just because this is developing. Because no, that's just not enough. I mean, in my opinion, anyway. So yeah, there are also some other things that can do it. Weezing Galar and Togekiss are two examples of Pokemon that have fallen deep into lower tiers, both of them being RU, that can check it. Togekiss in particular loves revenge killing with Scarf, Air Slash, and is able to switch and live any one hit. Bulky Togekiss can live anything besides 2 Poison Jabs, much like Clefable, so that's cool as well. Weezing Galar is pretty much a hard counter to it like Buzzwole, although Iron Head can 2-kill it, but Iron Head's been being run less and less and less because Poison Jab's better for things like Tapu Fini, so yeah, rest my case there. Definitely gotta be careful nonetheless, but also Weezing Galar just isn't a Pokemon we see much nowadays. It really would need Levitate to check things like Landorus T and Garchomp, and unfortunately it's just not being run right now, so yeah. There's also Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini being a pretty solid Pokemon right now, but it's gonna have to watch out for Poison Jabs, and in addition to that, it has no natural recovery, so it's really only a one-time check as is. Same goes for Coco. If it doesn't switch into Poison Jab, it can live any one hit into Sucker Punch, but it can only really do that once. It's taking over half. It can Roost it off, but if it ever switches into a Poison Jab, it's gone. So yeah, it's more of a situational check at best. So I mean, at the point you can't even fit a full 6 of potential hard checks, let alone counters. It's kind of getting dire. Thankfully though, there are some cores that can check it. things like Talk Specs or Amoonguss can be used with Mandibuzz. If you're facing a choice band set, you're going to do pretty well. For example, let's say it's turn 1, you go Talk Specs and Wicked Blow, you take 55, 60%, you do Rocky Helmet damage back to them, and then you go to Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz can tank that Wicked Blow. So you're doing about as much damage to them as you can regen off, and then if you get Toxics in before you get Urshifu in, then you're able to completely regen off the damage, and then force the same thing over again. And if they click close combat to the Pex, or you turn to the Pex, they're taking damage, and they're not doing much in return because you easily sponge that. But if you click Wicked Blow into it, you make a little bit of progress that it could just regen off the next time, but you're taking Rock Helmet damage nonetheless, and they have a durable Dark type in the back. So cores like these can suffocate Choice Bander, but then you also have the sets like the Life Warp or the Bulk Up sets, and those sets completely demolish these cores because all of a sudden your Toxic is 2-killed by Wicked Blow, Mandibuzz gets 2-killed either by boosted or just outright by the Life Orb close combat, and nothing you can really do to stop them offensively with these two. The best you can do is hope for a Scald Burn and the one chance you get with Pex or knock off the Life Orb, but by then it's little too late because you've got to switch in to begin with. So, yeah, all in all, same goes for Amoonguss, but it's a bit less durable than Toxic, less recover, less physical bulk, so you got to be careful there. But yeah, these compare with Mandibuzz and Check the Choice Band set, but that's about all it does, and even then, you got to be careful of knockoff of hazard damage, etc. So, yeah, Ditto can also be used as a Dark Resist alongside Zapdos Galar. Both of them are able to outrun Urshifu and then kill it back, be it Ditto with tracing the close combat with Imposter, or Zapdos Galar with its own close combat / Brave Bird / whatever it might be. However, these Pokemon really aren't reliable. Zapdos Galar is going to be taking a ton of damage from boosted attacks. In addition to that, lacks recovery, whereas Ditto, in Ditto's case, unfortunately, it can't live a close combat, and also it's locked into its own move, and it's kind of just Ditto, so it's really specific to very bulky install teams. That's kind of how to use Ditto, to just beat up on opposing offensive Pokemon and kind of, make them their own poison, if you will. Yeah, Tangrowth is another great example as non-choice banders who can't 2-KO it, and it can, Sleep Powder or Giga Drain back for a lot of health and force Rocky Helmet damage, but choice bander can 2-KO it, so you got to pair it with like a Fairy type or a durable Dark Resist and a durable Fighting Resist, so you kind of make your own core out of it. It's definitely a pretty effective way of dealing with it in my eyes, but then you're kind of dedicating mapping out your whole team to it, so you got to be careful there nonetheless, in my opinion. Tangrowth also has fallen off a bit. I'm not sure what tier it resides in right now. It actually is UU, yeah, it's still pretty solid, I guess, but it's not the most reliable thing. And then let's go about some partners to Urshifu in the metagame right now. So Slowbro and Slowking, as well as kind of Galarian Slowking, but it doesn't have teleport, are the big ones. Idea is turn 1, you get a future sight off as they go to say, I don't know, their Clefable to soak up Scald Burn potential or whatever it might be. They go to their Toxic attacks, like, oh yeah, I could easily take that. No big deal. They go to whatever defensive wall they do. Then turn 2, you click teleport, and let's say you take a hit. Oh no, I take 50%. I just regenerate most of it off anyway. And you bring in the Urshifu, and then suddenly the combination of Wicked Blow or Close Combat plus Future Sight just completely devastates teams, and you can't switch your Tox Specs in to begin with very well, but now you can't switch it in because it's going to die to Future Sight even after a Close Combat. You can't switch your Clefable in because Wicked Blow is going to become a 2-KO after Future Sight, same with Close Combat, etc. You can't switch your Landorus in to begin with because Wicked Blow goes to Intimidate, but even if they go for close combat, Future Sight afterwards is going to do a ton. The list goes on and on and on. It really makes it sort of invalidates counterplay, and not to mention Buzzwole is going to completely be devastated. So, yeah, all in all, they got to be forced to go really proactive against these kind of cores now, and not a lot of teams can afford to do that in this metagame right now when you have to already go more defensively to check things like Urshifu as is. So, they kind of see the problem here. Yeah, so one could argue that Future Sight and Teleport as a dynamic of alone enables too many things that can be really overpowered. Like Cinderace is also another example. Garchomp, Metal, etc. But I don't think anyone's really clamoring for those Pokemon to be banned, at least not yet. I can see Cinderace, but not the others. But truth be told, these Pokemon enabling Urshifu to be as effective and consistent as they are offensively, really hard to keep in check. It says a lot about the state of Urshifu in the metagame right now, in my opinion, and another reason why we probably should be looking into banning it. Wish Clefable benefits it well, especially Wish plus Teleport. Hawlucha on offensive teams, specifically Hyper Offense, kind of can clear for each other. The aforementioned Clefable example, where you get a Wicked Blow into a Poison down to Clefable, all of a sudden Hawlucha can sweep right past it. It's amazing. Volt switchers like Magearna make for great partners, letting you get in safely. And finally, I really like Stealth Rock, Swords Dance, Earthquake, Stone Edge, Life Orb, Garchomp with it, as you're able to clear out a lot of checks and counters, +2 Life Orb, Earthquake, damaging things like Clefable heavily, being able to really take out things like the kind of inflict status, such as Zapdos and Moltres with Stone Edge, and also getting rocks, potentially turn 1-shot, 2-KOs to 1-shots, or 3-KOs and 2-KOs for Urshifu as well. So yeah, that comes in handy there too. All in all, though, There are a lot of potential partners for Urshifu. These are just some of the best ones. I think that Slowbro and Slowking are kind of like the cream of the crop in this regard, as they function really nicely with it. But Holucha on Hyper Offense is great. Anything that can generate momentum for it is great, even if it's just like a random slow U-turn or Volt Switch, of course. Wishport, Fable, or Teleport Blitz you can do nicely. And then aggressive Stealth Rockers like Lander ST, or even Heatran and like Garchomp, or even Heatran or Lander ST can function nicely as well. Damaging things for it, as well as getting a Brock, spreading that passive damage, and so on and so forth. So my ultimate conclusion is I believe Urshifu is broken in the metagame. I think it's been broken since the DLC 1 days after we got McGearn and Cinderace out of the tier to begin with, and I definitely agree with that opinion now. I think it's just as good, if not better, than before, due to the fact that Buzzwole has finally fallen off a bit, and we're seeing Future Sight more and more, which enables Urshifu to be as good as it could possibly be. I think this metagame will be much better off offensively with it not being in the tier, giving a ton of options for bulky offense, much like Pheromone. So you've seen an uptick in bulky offense already. It's going to get even better, and I think that's great. We're going to see more of a balance in this metagame. All the archetypes being viable, although stall, so really not great with things like Future Sight plus Cinderace, Future Sight plus Melmetal in the tier. Very hard for those teams to deal with it. So yeah. In conclusion, I'll be voting ban on Urshifu once I get my suspect Rex, my laddering on the channel over the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. And in addition to this, guys, I hope you all have had amazing holidays. This is a little special metagame Monday for right after the holidays. I know some of you might still be in holiday mode, and that's fine. Unfortunately, I'm back to work this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then half day Thursday. So I'll start to get out videos every day besides maybe one day. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, no, I'm really hyped to bring you guys this content, and I hope this helps you guys make up your mind on Urshifu. If you guys agree or disagree or have any comments, please let me know down below in the comment section. I always love engaging with you guys. In addition, if you guys enjoyed this video, smack that like button. If you guys want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. It would really mean the world to me. Finally, guys, if you want to be in touch, my Twitter will be linked down below, and my Discord server will also be linked down below. We got over 800 people. It's a nice, chill chat, good environment, ton of friendly, like-minded people, always down to chat about Pokemon and other topics as well. And finally, guys, it's either going to be started January or February. I'm still ironing out details, but we work on a project that means a lot to me in a personal regard, raising money for the channel for a really important cause. So stay tuned for that. Going to be either an update on January 1st or February 1st. I'm not sure yet, but I promise you there's going to be consistent uploads moving forward and a lot to look forward to in the channel. So yeah, if you guys are interested, please subscribe. Only 55 to 60% of the people that watch these videos regularly are, and I'd love to really get past that 6,000 number. Admittedly, I'm kind of lagging behind where I thought I'd be subscribers-wise at this point, so if you guys can subscribe, that'd be great. And if not, I completely understand, but I guarantee I'm going to work for it. And this channel's going to be as great as possible, and we'll get there. So yeah, thank you so much for all the support. It's really made 2020, which was kind of a hellish year, salvageable, and it's been amazing. So yeah, this is probably the last metagame Monday of the year. It's been crazy making this series, really helping teach a ton of people about the metagame that I love and spend a lot of time on. And it's great that I could share my hobby with all you guys, and I hope you guys are enjoying. Thanks so much again, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Stay safe. All right, bye guys. See you later.